The state just put forth some very interesting information about gold and silver. It looks like Republican Congressman McClain, along with his colleague Jennifer, has brought forth House Bill 206, which basically says Ohio legislators propose state currency backed by silver and gold. So what's going on? Will this work? Let's find out. Okay, so I want to take a minute, share some thoughts in reference to a recent article that came out this past week about gold and silver. And of course, there's all types of news out here, but then again, this is more on the positive note because we have a state, Ohio, which is the bordering state here to Michigan. And so I know for a fact that Governor Whitmer and Michigan would never talk about gold and silver in this light. But then again, they do have a crypto pension opportunity for the state of Michigan. And so once again, whenever gold and silver is talked about, I love to mention it just to shine light on, some activity that is more so positive when it comes to the true tried and tested nature of gold and silver. And so as always, if you guys want to see more of these little quick takes, definitely hit that thumbs up button to show your support for the channel. And as always, take this information if you find value and share it with your family and friends so others can be informed and kept up to speed as to what's really happening when it comes to the true gold and silver that the people is actually able to get a hold of these days, and the importance of protecting and preserving everything they work so hard for. And then if you're new, make sure you subscribe so you never miss one of these updates when I put one out. But let's just jump right into the primary subject matter of the day. It says Ohio legislators propose state currency backed by silver and gold. And as I mentioned, it came out this past week. And for the most part, it flew under the radar just because there's so many other things happening, from the Fed rate cut to the President Xi and Donald Trump meeting to you name whatever subject matter is of importance to you. More than likely, you didn't hear about this particular story here. And even though it's somewhat minor, but then again, it has bigger ramifications because the state of Ohio, and especially the residents of Ohio, are more than likely to be intrigued by articles such as this when gold and silver is mentioned, because it's good to say you can't post stuff like this. It happens to trend across the state without people becoming more curious as to what's going on and why their Congress people are so pressed on providing silver and gold for the people to protect them from the issues we face. And so more Ohioans will definitely be getting their weight up in the days ahead, unlike Michigan, which I'm sure the majority of them, outside of the people who pay attention here, probably could care less until it's too late. But real quick here, let's give it to you straight. It says here, Ohioans could soon buy their groceries or morning coffee with silver and gold instead of the Federal Reserve note, aka the American dollar, as it's called here. House Bill 206, introduced by Representative Jennifer Gross and Werden McClain, would establish a state currency based on gold and silver. The bill directs the state treasurer to set up a transactional currency rooted in silver and gold to address concerns with the value of the US dollar. And so just the idea of a state currency based on gold and silver, to me, sounds very intriguing, just because Ohio could be, if this was to move forward, one of the many states that have taken the initiative to reintroduce sound money back into their people's psyche, and of course provide options for them to do such. And so it's interesting to hear some of the suggestions and strategies that they're talking about putting forth. And the question is, I wonder, could the gold backs or the gold notes also be a viable option for those in the state of Ohio who may not be familiar with them? Or if the representatives come across this video here, to consider creating your own gold infused note as a way of circulating alongside the Federal Reserve notes. Just something worth considering there. But real quick, give you more. It says you no longer need to be rich to own gold. You can spend gold and silver anywhere that accepts a Mastercard. It says the U.S. Constitution said only the federal government can coin money and regulate its value, so states are generally not allowed to make their own currency. Oh, really? It says the Constitution does allow one exception, and it says no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. And so once again, the fact that here we have a mainstream news source out of the state of Ohio talking about the Constitution, nevertheless referencing coining gold and silver as tender. Once again, that's something that just, it's like music to my ears when I hear stuff like this. And then next, it says here, it goes on to reference Utah was the first state to take advantage of this exception, codifying its own gold tender law in 2011. If passed, HB 206 would make Ohio the 12th state to recognize its own gold and silver currency. So the bill would also remove taxes associated with silver and gold purchases, making it easier to pay without the dollar. Easier to pay without the Federal Reserve note. So once again, when you have two representatives basically concerned with the purchasing power of this instrument here, to me, that is, once again, very informative, very exciting when it comes to helping people understand true monetary history in reference to this instrument here. Because as I always say, this thing here, even though it spends today working and saving and doing your or valuing your entire life in this instrument here, will be a detrimental to your financial future in the future. But then again, you know that. And that's why gold and silver is of importance to everybody, not as the end be all, but just as a way to protect yourself on the sideline out of all this chaos that's unfolding right now, because mainstream news is going to continue to steer you towards the digits. And once again, the digits are in lock and step with the Great Reset and everything else. So just be careful. If you're going to play the game, remember, don't go in a direction solely where they're steering you. Make sure you keep one foot at least back on land in a tangible sphere where your foot is on solid ground, the kind of ground that, the Lord gave us. Anyway, a couple other things here, and then we'll keep it on moving, because I want to also just throw some ideas and some possible scenarios. It says concerns with the system have included the fluctuating price of gold, the fact that gold investments are taxed federally, and logistics in acquiring and keeping gold reserve. It says if passed, the bill would allow Ohioans to purchase gold and silver through the state and use their gold and silver to make purchases instead of the American currency. The system will be electronic, and every dollar spent will be represented by a physical gold and silver held by the state in a protected reserve. And then it says here, spending silver and gold would look similar to using a credit card or Apple Pay. Ohioans using the system would have to purchase silver and gold through the state and pay a fee to be authorized to spend that money. If there is one asset that's really stood the test of time, it's gold, McLean said. It's silver to come to some degree. And so here you have just a blueprint of what is being suggested and recommended. The idea of gold and silver being in the possession of the state and allowing the citizens to have access to their gold stored at the state level. And from that, they're talking about tokenizing gold to where you can actually have a Mastercard or the ability to connect it digitally to your phone in the form of some digitized, payment system, i.e. Zelle, Cash App, as it referenced there, Apple Pay, and be able to tap and pay and use your gold and silver. And so one problem with that is, in this current environment where everything is denominated in and valued in USD, aka the Federal Reserve note, that's not a good idea, because I wouldn't recommend actually working to redeem the notes into gold and silver, then to spend the gold and put it back into the hands of the same people that you bought it from, just because the Gretchen's law, bad money drives out the good. And so literally the bad is the fact that the world is making decisions around this. So you might want to just solely, if you're going to spend your time and energy for this, spend this, but yet keep in mind the importance of redeeming these notes for your savings in gold and or silver, and just allowing it to sit there and collect dust more than likely, or unless you have a strategy as far as leasing it out to borrow against it or anything like that in the form of a strategy. But I recognize what they're trying to do here. They're trying to get people to realize gold and silver is something that's meant to be used. Used is great, but then again, in moderation. And so the idea of them having or giving their people access to Mastercard and Pay, Venmo, and all that stuff like that is all fine and good, but that stuff already exists. Now, the question is, will they actually implement it, and will it become state law? That's where we will wait and see. But in the meantime, just the idea of gold and silver circulating in people's hands, great. What would be good, and where they will not take it, is the idea of actually taking the gold and silver that they do have and then using technology to help implement it into the actual use case of a currency outside of the digital side. And then that's where they mentioned Ohio or Utah in that article there. And this is where what's available in Utah comes into play, because there's different denominations for the ability to actually take a certain weight of gold. So each one of these notes here are different weights, all same purity, 3995 24 karat gold infused in these notes, but the different denominations from the smallest to the biggest denotes a different weight. And of course, you got purity and weight priced in USD terms. You're going to always get different prices, which will make it accessible for people to be able to spend these things if they so choose. But more than likely, once again, because it's gold, you might want to keep on some of these. So could there be a Ohio note coming in the near future? I don't know. So as of right now, there's the Florida, there's Utah, there's the New Hampshire, there's all types of states that have allowed their participation in this whole gold back program here. But then again, these are some things that will be worth mentioning. And if they were to go that route, I think the people in Ohio would definitely be pleased at being able to put something physical in their wallet that's not heavy, that doesn't, require, you to have, extra weight and things of that nature. But just to have a simple 1 unit Ohio note, which today about 7 or 8, Federal Reserve notes, is easily exchangeable for some gas or some bread or whatever it is, if you wanted to put these in circulation. And if you had an alternative currency that was circulating alongside the Federal Reserve note, then you got yourself a different type of economy there. But to go solely digital with just the tap and pay, the swipe, that's what's currently right now. So not much excitement there. But once again, these are some things that are developing in Ohio. Thought I would bring it to your attention just because for those who are not in Ohio, no matter where you're at in the country, there's options for you already. And so as always, I want to continue to remind you and suggest some things worth considering. And when it comes to alternative banking, that's where you get a chance to actually redeem notes and then park them in a account where you have gold and silver accessible to you via a Mastercard, or you can have them redeemed or exchanged for the actual gold side of things. And that, my friends, comes, as I have on the screen here, United Precious Metals. And so once again, you can actually set up a free account and it mimics everything associated with banking the way it used to be before it became digitized and solely based upon these instruments here. So you can actually store, save, and use your gold if you so choose. And so once again, if you guys are interested in finding out more about this, then there's a link in the description to take you right to the sign up page, set up a free account, and then just start depositing. And you got yourself a gold and silver banking model. And so that's just something that people should consider, just because once again, it's always good to have a diversified approach to how you do what you do, because you never want to just be stuck in one particular method, because there's a variety of responses and things that can happen. So you want to make sure that you have a couple different angles covered. If you want to actually get yourself some of these gold backed notes here, then of course go to buygoldnotes.com. And as you can see here, the 1 unit is at its current price, $7.70. And it's a lot higher in Federal Reserve notes price, especially as gold goes up. So it's good to say that that 770 will not be going down. It's only going to go up. So if you're going to redeem some of these, might want to do it in a more timelier fashion. You're not stuck just holding these things and not having some of these here. So once again, go to buygoldnotes.com, links in the description. Of course, I believe every silver stacker should be directly connected to the industry if you're going to be in it. Not only should you be a consumer of it, but you also should get into the distribution game as well by becoming an actual distributor. And that's where I think this program here, the Quick Silver Wealth Accelerated program, is a good way for stackers to get involved directly, because not only can you become your own customer, but you also can become a distributor and help other people get their weight up. And of course, be rewarded for your efforts and then have a chance to get free silver on the back end of it. And that, my friend, is something you definitely should consider. So once again, if you're interested, go to mysilverteam.com, links in the description, and it'll take you to this page here where you can get all the information you need. But ultimately, it's just a lot of people dollar cost averaging and getting ounce by ounce, trying to actually get their weight up. And of course, as you see here, this is a collector's kit where everybody's proud to represent and show what they've been wise enough to get involved with. So once again, just taking a minute, sharing my 2 cents. Curious to see what you guys think. As always, if you found value, hit that thumbs up, drop a comment, and I'll catch you guys later. Enjoy your day.